He is Lord Stewart Jackson, Conservative peer. Good morning, Lord Jackson.
Good morning, Kevin.
This is an extraordinary betrayal of what the people of this country voted for. I mean, the actual statement, it's as the Mail says this morning, he's finally let the cat out of the bag. The mask has slipped. So he's been dancing around for the last couple of weeks, showing that he wants closer ties with Europe, going to The Hague with Yvette Cooper, and then last week, of course, his conflab with Macron over in Paris, where he called for closer ties, etc. But when he went to Canada, he really let the cat out of the bag by saying, we don't want to diverge from the EU. Kept calling them our partners. Well, I think, you know, I suppose we can call them our partners if we want, but that's not what we voted for. And what we certainly didn't vote for is a Prime Minister who says he doesn't want to diverge from the EU. That's what we voted for, to diverge from the EU. We're in trouble if he gets in, aren't we?
This is very characteristic, as you know, Kevin, of Keir Starmer. He never believed in Brexit. He campaigned for Remain. Were it not for the, frankly, politically stupid decision from the point of view of the Labour Party by Jeremy Corbyn to block the talks, he would have worked with the Theresa May government in 2019 for legislation for a second referendum. He thought the British people got it wrong. He wanted a second referendum. So it doesn't really surprise me that he can't hold in his true views, which is that he voted for Remain. We should never have left the European Union. The difficulty we have now is that the EU are unsentimental. They've always taken the view that they wanted to make Brexit as difficult as possible for the British people and for the UK, and they didn't want the UK as a third country to have a competitive advantage, which, of course, if we do diverge and develop our own regulations and laws, we will have over a shrinking EU market. So they are unsentimental, and the problem he's got is that they are going to want something in the quid pro quo. If Starmer wants to join this sort of third-tier French-German idea of a multi-tiers, multi-geometry Europe, we're going to be on the outside as a non-member, unable to make any decisions or influence the rules. But if Starmer gets his way, we'll be in the third tier, we'll be paying in regular contributions, we'll be accepting single market rules, even maybe in the future free movement, and we'll be in the customs union effectively. And that will be a disaster, because that will cut across all the many dozens of trade deals that we've made with the rest of the world since 2020. Personally, I don't think it's going to happen. And even if it was proposed by Labour, I think it would have to inevitably be subject to a referendum by the British people.
Yeah, I think we might need another referendum, but also we're talking about what he'll do when he gets into number 10. I think the way he's has behaved over the last couple of weeks, more and more, it's not a question of when he gets into number 10, it's if he gets into number 10. The narrative now for so long has been, oh, well, the Tories are doomed, people are fed up with them, they just want to change. And I think there's something in that. There's a lot in that. I mean, politics is cyclical. Every 12 or 13 years or so, there tends to be a change. However, what could buck that inevitability is the way he's behaving. He's disrespecting the democratic decision of the British people. And by the way, Rishi Sunak pulled a real fast one on him by announcing that the government's going to U-turn on all of this green claptrap that costs the people of this country a fortune. I mean, I've never quite understood why the Tories have attached themselves to policies that will make people colder and poorer in the first place, but the Prime Minister appears to have seen the light now. So in terms of who wins the next election, you've got cheaper, less green obsessive Tories. You've got Tories who will respect the Brexit vote, or you've got Keir Starmer, who's going to give you a very expensive life, you know, driving electric cars and paying hundreds of pounds extra on your energy bills, being beaten over the head with a climate change stick, and much closer ties to Europe. Now, given that choice, I'd say Labour's in trouble.
Yeah, and the important thing to remember, Kevin, is that, I lived through the 97 election. I was a candidate. It was horrific for the Conservatives, but there was an inevitability because, of course, Blair was popular. Tony Blair was well-liked. He looked like a Tory. He agreed to carry on Conservative policies, and he didn't frighten the horses. He had character, charisma, and he had a decent programme. Keir Starmer is a decent enough chap, but he's dull. He lacks charisma. He's someone who he has a huge challenge. I mean, they've got to gain over 120 seats to have a bare majority. That's something even David Cameron didn't do in 2010, and only Blair did in modern times. He's not the same as Blair. No. I think if the Tories pull their act together on stopping the boats, on cutting taxes, on pulling back from ridiculous virtue signalling legislation like this conversion practices bill, which all the people supporting it hate the Tories and they're going to vote for them. If they actually get back and have a contract with the people that put them in power in 2019 to make them richer, to take care of their savings, their pensions, their business, their mortgages, which Tories used to do, they do have a real fighting chance. And I don't think it's a done deal. At the moment, the Tories look set to lose the election. Labour definitely are not set to win it. So it's all to play for. And I think Starmer is someone who is becoming a little hubristic about the fact he's going to be Prime Minister.
Yeah, I agree with that. And he does look capable now, particularly in the light of his EU statements, of plucking defeat from the jaws of victory. Just want to ask you a last question. You mentioned about low taxes. I mean, I think some of the problems that the Tory party is in is that this government for a long time has not really behaved like a Conservative government. And Jeremy Hunt has now stated tax cuts are virtually impossible. This is after 14 tax cuts, rises under the Tories. I think the Tories, we've just been saying how maybe they're in with a chance of beating Keir Starmer, but I don't think they will be unless they revert to true conservatism. It is the party of low tax. We need tax cuts.
Yeah, I think you're right. You've got to see the context, which is record debt, tax rises, the record expansion of the state, mainly caused by COVID. And if you add that to some of these slightly weird woke policies, it's not a prospectus people are attracted to. The only way they've got a chance of winning an election is reinventing themselves in office in the next year as an authentic, true Conservative party with Conservative principles and values. That's not impossible, but they need to start early because Labour is eminently beatable.
Indeed. Very interesting times and very good to talk to you about it. That's Lord Stewart Jackson, Conservative peer.